Hey guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws and BLUESAWS.com. Hope everybody's doing all right. You guys, some of you, the regulars to the channel, probably recognize my personal blue G366. I actually just updated it. Oh, I got my headphones on, and hopefully this speaker is working so you guys could hear me talk as opposed to most of the videos. Anyhow, I made some upgrades, some high performance upgrades. I put the bigger dogs on it. I like them very well because the standard dogs, I don't mind small dogs, but they're ridiculously small, and they were giving me some problems on some wood. So I'm like, what the heck? I'll put the big fancy spikes on it, and I'll tell you what, I like it better. I don't like losing the inch of bar, inch and a quarter of bar, but they do make a heck of a difference. The other thing that I had just done was I put on the Elasto start handle. Not that it's hard to start it, you really needed it, but it's just nicer. So it was kind of some nice upgrades, and I've been running it for, I don't know, it's probably, I'm thinking it's 2 weeks, but it was probably more like a month. And I take it out yesterday, and it's been sitting outside and for a while, and it was probably between 15 and 20 degrees out. And I take this and I take the OEM 400 down. I'm going to run them both. Well, the farmertec saw failed, and I was kind of surprised. So what happens is I go to start the saw. 3 pulls it usually starts. Didn't start. Go to 4 and 5, or at least blips on choke is what I mean. So I go to 5, maybe 6 pulls, can't quite remember, and I have fuel pouring out the muffler. Well, that's different. That's new. It usually, 3 pulls on choke, and it's blipping for you to move it up to high idle. All right, whatever. I clear the flood just pulling it, get it to start. Seems like it's running fine. I go to make my first cut, and it wasn't a big piece of wood. It was poplar that came down, quaking aspen. So I'm cutting that aspen, I'm halfway through, and yeah, it wasn't that big. And all of a sudden, it seems like it wants to run wide open throttle without me being on the trigger. I look, and the triggers seem to be working, going in and out. And, guys, I have the BLUESAWS velocity stack on it, so I could see the linkage, and I don't see anything in the linkage or what's going on. Well, this saw had to get pulled apart anyway because one of my kill switch wires broken somewhere. So I can't kill it with the kill switch reliably. So I got to choke it off. So I choked it off, restarted it, and immediately it goes to maybe not wide open, but 10,000 RPMs, 9,000 RPMs, something like that, and I can't control the saw. Choke it off again, restart it, does the same thing. So here I am with this thing. I will rip it apart. So I figured I'd talk to you guys as I was ripping it apart. I started ripping it apart, and I wasn't going to make a video because I just made a couple videos that I uploaded. I have to comment and get them published, but I did do a couple videos on a few things. Nothing earth-shattering, guys. So I figured as I'm ripping this apart, you guys could see it. Of course, it has I threw it in there 2 seconds ago. Now I'm dropping it on the floor. I like to put these intake boot rings right on the carb so I don't forget them. And that's the aluminum velocity stack that we're using on these. I like it real. Not that there's anything wrong with 3D printed plastic for this kind of stuff, but when you could use, milled aluminum, I don't know. I like the aluminum better. So anyhow, I got the carb off, took the top off. I'm going to pull the handle off and everything else. So I figured I'd just keep you guys with me and chat with you guys as I'm doing it and see how me just chatting as I'm working goes as a video, because to be honest with you guys, it'd be a lot easier for me to do because I'm always doing something. And I want to share things with you guys. And I talk to people about some of the stuff that I'm doing. And they're like, oh, you should have made a video of that. You should have made a video. Yeah, I know I should have made a video of it. I didn't really think of it. You could tell I leave this saw out in the rain and in the elements. Most of the time it's under an overhang. It's under cover, but sometimes I leave it down at the wood pile for days. And, you know, if you look at my velocity stack, could probably use cleaned and oil, mostly oiled is what it looks like. I wanted to talk to you guys about some tools too, and I'm not using them right now. So I don't know if I should talk to you about them, but I got these little, I wind up using Phillips head and flathead screwdrivers more often than you would think for little things here and there. And listen, I have a million Craftsman screwdrivers, various no-name screwdrivers. I have full toolboxes of screwdrivers that I've accumulated over the years. They're fine, but I'm going to tell you what. There's two screwdrivers that I just bought. They're both Japanese made. One is Vessel, and you've probably heard of the company before because they make nicer screwdrivers. And the other is Annex, A-N-E-X. This little Annex is a ratcheting head screwdriver. You know, the bits, if I could pull it, come out. They're reversible, and it comes with a couple different bits. But the number 2 Phillips, what I like about them is that the Phillips heads on them are dead on. They fit so snug into a screw, it really makes a difference. And some of the Chinese metal, it may be milled correctly, but that softer, occasionally softer metal, it's nice to have something that fits it perfectly, doesn't strip it out. I'll tell you what, the Vessel, this isn't a ratcheting head. Now, I like the ball head a lot, but I love this ratcheting Annex. I actually have a Vessel bit in it. Just that's the way it worked out. I think that's the Annex bit. It's just longer, so I had the shorter Vessel bit. But I like these tools, and maybe I'll talk to you guys about some of the tools I use, because if there's one thing, I'm stocked pretty good with tools. Bench vices, blacksmith leg vices, anvils, hammers, because I do a little bit of that. Just, I like good tools, but I also buy cheap tools. I have Harbor Freight tools. I have, what are these? Weehaw. I like the Weehaw stuff an awful lot. Like, these are all my Allen heads. Well, that's a driver. But I very much like the Weehaw stuff. And the bits that I use are actually Weehaw bits. And I get such a long time out of these bits. And I bought a whole, you know, a thing of 40 of them in a little shaker container. And I probably still have 30 of them left. And I don't think I wore, maybe I wore 1 or 2 of them out that I tossed. But for the most part, they last a good long time. I also like the snap-on driver quite a bit. The only thing I don't like about it is that the battery is so small on it, which I guess is nice, but it doesn't stand up real well. It's real easy to tip. So I got this magnetic bottom, and I can't show you, but it sticks to things, which is, well, maybe I can show you from there. Kind of nice. Oh, geez, I'm going to break the snap on now. Oh, no. Yeah. This is more cheap metal that it's not sticking to, but it generally sticks to stuff. I think Snap-on could put a stronger magnet in. And to be honest with you guys, if Snap-on was smart, they'd have put a magnet on the front and a magnet on the back too, so I could just take a bit and stick it to it, because it's got no bit storage on it, which is damn annoying, especially if you're out doing something. You know, if I'm at the bench, no big deal. But when you're out working on whatever you're working on, it'd be nice to just stick a bunch of bits to it so you have them. You listening, Snap-on? Probably not. I'm sure you don't care, and you charge me another $40 for 2 magnets. I guess I could glue a couple magnets on there. I could get crafty with the hot melt glue gun and whatever, guys. So I'm going to pop this off, and what I thought I'd do is maybe I'd pressure test it with you. I don't know if my phone's going to have enough storage to hold all this, but we'll give it a try, and I'll go through what I do. Yeah, there it is. I like the Steel T27 also. That's lasted me a pretty good long time, but I think I like the Weehaw one a little bit better. No offense to Steel, this has been a good one, but the Weehaw gets a little more use. The Steel's nice because it's short, but again, if you have decent quality tools, Everything doesn't have to be the most expensive, best tool, but on some things like bit drivers, screwdrivers, certain things where fit into something matters so you don't strip things out, it's kind of nice to have. And I hate getting in on these things that you can't see, these blind muffler bolts. Come on, you're in there somewhere. There we go. All right. The other thing that's real important for a driver that you're going to use on saws is that it has an adjustable, like a clutch. That matters. Like I have well, they're not here because, oh, there it is over there. Different impacts. I have Milwaukee impacts. I have DeWalt impacts, but they're not adjustable. They're good for some things, but not others. And what's funny is I wish I had that other DeWalt impact. Like this is a shorty one. I like the Milwaukee one probably the best, and I don't think it's this one. This is more of a drill. I have another DeWalt impact, and I don't like it because it goes from 0 to too much too easily, even when you do the adjustments, whereas this one is a lot smoother with the ugga-duggas. All right, let me get working here so I can get something set up for a vacuum pressure test. But anyhow, that clutch is important because for the most part, I have this on 3 for any bolt that I'm putting in. That way I can't strip it, I can't over tighten it, and I'll finish it with a hand tool. I guess I know that at 6 or 7, it's going to be as tight as I need it, but I don't often do that. And when getting things out that are tough, I could just turn it up to full drive or onto 9 and get out whatever I have to get out. Oh, this is where them dogs are going to screw me. I can't get my driver in there because the dog's in the way. See? These damn big dogs. I'm spoiled using drivers, which I like because my hands are crap. Well, this is way overdue for a look at anyway, so I kind of don't mind. Mine that didn't run the other day, but it was way due for a look at. I run this thing like I'm trying to blow it up and mistreat it. Just, I don't know, I classify it as my due diligence for, selling a bunch of these modified. And I don't know, this has been a great saw. There's one of our early muffler mods. Not as pretty, a little bit scratched up and beat up, you could see. One of the other videos that I uploaded, and I hope you get to see it, is muffler gaskets and why it matters that, throwing a 660 muffler gasket on here has caused some folks problems when it really needs not a 360 muffler gasket, a 361 muffler gasket, because they're all shaped a little bit differently. Well, this one's a little bright. Grab a little flashlight and let's just take a look. It's been a long time. I see a couple light marks on there, but nothing terrible. Got a little bit of carbon, but nothing that's chipping off, just a black coating. Not too bad. So anyhow, guys, we've gone through this before. I got my block off plate for the muffler. I got muffler bolts that I actually put a couple washers and a nut on just to make them shorter because I don't want to go in too far. Some of these are blind holes, and it depends on the configuration of the saw. If you had too long of a bolt because it's not being taken up by a muffler gasket, a plate, another muffler gasket, the muffler, this might be a little bit thinner than all that, and I don't want these bolts to bottom out and then strip out a muffler bolt hole. So I shortened them up with that nut on there. You don't have to do that. It's just something I did. That way I know in any saw I put this in, I have enough threads to hold the block off plate on, and never could be enough threads to go in too deep and cause me a problem. I hope this video is not boring the pants off you guys. Well, I really hope that, but I don't know. Just trying something different. You guys will tell me if it's worth a shit. I don't mind getting bolts started with the hand tools because you kind of can't mess them up. And then again, I'll put this on 3, and I know 3 can't strip a hole. I can give it a little. What I like about this too is that if you turn with it, it locks in place, so you can kind of wrench on things. Not that I wrench on things real hard with it. I'll grab a hand tool, but you could tighten more than the torque of the driver itself. Feel awkward working and looking back at you guys. I feel like I'm glancing at you from the side of my eyes, and it's kind of weird. I don't know if I love this, but again, we'll give it a try. Block off plate. This is a pain in, like, this fits so many saws I can't even tell you. You can flip it 2 different ways. You got the, if you have an impulse line coming out, you got the little peg to go in the impulse line. Sometimes you have to remove it depending on the saw, but you could do it 2 different ways and it'll seal up different saws. So I always have to remember it's one, let's see, bottom hole, or no, top hole on the left side, bottom hole on the right side, and you actually have to work at it to get it in there. I mean, this saw's been done before. Oh, you know what we need? We better put our ring in, or else sometimes it doesn't pressure test real nice without that ring in there. Some guys could get away with it, and I've even gotten away with it. But more often than not, when I have a problem, that's what's caused it. You got to get the fuel line out of the way too. This block off plate could hit that fuel line and cause you a different problem. And then the muffler bolts are long, and I don't want to run those nuts, you know, the inch, the good inch. So I have little tubes that I cut off a piece of metal tubing to shorten that up. That's all those are, guys. Maybe I could find, oh, you know what? Because we had the velocity stack on, we have these bigger couplers, which might look a little funny to you guys. They just work better with the velocity stack. Yeah, I could jam regular nuts down there, but these are a heck of a lot nicer setup with the velocity stack. And again, on number 3, I'm not too worried about stripping anything. If it was going to do it, it'd do it today, though, while I'm videoing. All right, we're plugged. We got this in. It's funny. I could see the corrosion from the water. Not that it was left out in the rain all that much, but I guess it has been. You could see the white residue on stuff on the spark plug and the little bit of rust. That's horrible. I feel like a bad person. You know, and I do blow off saws and I do try to maintain them, but sometimes, like any tool with work, it's going to get abused at some point. I cut this off at an angle because it makes it a little bit easier to get into the other hose. And again, when you're pressure testing things, and I'm going to start with vacuum on this, so I'm pressure now, I'll test my hose before I do anything. Make sure there's no leaks along that hose since I used it 12 hours ago or however many hours it was. And that looks good. Now I'll switch over to vacuum and assume I have a massive vacuum leak, but I do not. You know, with the way this thing was racing, uh, a higher than normal idle, I could see being a seal, being a leak somewhere. But this was racing like maybe something got stuck in the carb. Maybe I got junk in it. Maybe it was so cold I had water in my fuel and that did something weird. I'm real not sure about it. But I'm at 8 pounds and I'm still at 8 pounds. And let me give you a little more and get you dead nuts on the line for 8 pounds. And we're going to sit here for a minute. The other thing you want to do with this is when you do a vacuum and pressure test, I always say magnets down, piston down, magnets down. So what I'll do is instead of having your magnet right by the coil, okay, have it the opposite side because this would be piston up, but I want piston down. So I'll spin it to the exact opposite side of the coil for the magnets. That way I know my piston's down. That's the proper way to do a vacuum pressure test. Guys will tell you it's absolutely invalid to do it any other way. I don't know. You're still testing the saw, but I get what they're saying. I put the magnets down. I listen to guys who know more than I do, so I put the magnets down. I'm down to 7. So I don't know how long we were talking there. It had to have been a minute. So right now we're failing vacuum. And I'm going to go right over to pressure because that's usually where I could find something out. Sometimes I'll pass vacuum and fail pressure. It's not a bad leak, but there is a leak. But the way it was racing, I don't know if that was my problem because it was racing like it was racing. We are at 8 1/4 right now, but I see we're at 8 1/8, 8. I'm gonna let this go to 7 1/2, and then I'm gonna start spraying our soapy water. My favorite thing to do. Well, we're still at 8. Man, just a hair under 8. Pain in the ass about these Mighty Vacs is this horrible pressure release. It's real easy to hit on things, even when you lay this thing down. I think I'm going to pop that lever off there and just leave the button on the bottom. I think I'd be better off. At like 7 1/4, so we're losing pressure. She's going down, guys. So we'll get our handy dandy spray bottle, and this is the crappy spray bottle. I don't know where my good spray bottle went. Actually, it's probably by my torch setup. You know, the first thing I always check is the plug, not the plug, not the boot. But I still don't know that this is our problem. And I'm just going to do the easy stuff right now. A little bit along the base. Hoping for a big fat bubble. A little bit around our block off plate there. It's not a horrible leak. It's not a leak enough that makes me think that that's what was causing my problem. All right, so this is the easy leak stuff. You know, you hope maybe your intake boot needed a little tightening or something like that. I don't see anything along the front of the base. Yeah, I don't see anything bubbling up yet. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to sit here and watch this thing because sometimes it'll be little tiny fine bubbles that take a while, like it's so slight that you don't see it. Don't love these impulse lines on these because they're really hard to see with getting soapy water on them. Come on, something give me a bubble. So I'm going to check seals next. I'm probably not going to do it on this video because I think we're running too long, but we're down to 4 pounds. So during that time, we went all the way down to 4 pounds. So pump it back up to give it more pressure to hopefully make a big bubble. I'm at 9. Don't hit the thing. God, I hate the spray bottle. I'll give it more of a spray on the easy stuff. All right, this spray bottle's going in the garbage when we're done here. And this is what it is. It's sitting and staring at it like a weirdo, waiting for little tiny bubbles or a big bubble to start forming and blowing up. But I'm not seeing it in any of the usual suspects. Let me go over to the torches and see if my other bottle's over there. Nope, not yet. Oh, there it is. Got it. However, it's empty. Or close to empty. Fun guys watching me transfer soapy water from one bottle to another. Makes for a thrilling chainsaw video. Let's see. Yeah, I like this good sprayer better. Niagara. Well, then I'll be blowing this off to clean it off too. God damn. And I'm going to pump that up again. Got her sprayed down as good as could be. Jesus Christ, I'm at 9 still. This makes it even more fun when you know you had a leak. You were videoing it, talking about it, so you have timestamps on how fast it was leaking, and this thing's still holding at 9. Why? And then I'll get to moving you around and torquing you like if you were cutting. But again, a leak that's that light, it will make a notice. You will notice it in performance, but it's not going to do what this was doing. So maybe I need to check the fuel filter, but it was running. I guess I should have played with it more, but I was trying to cut up a log to get it done so the kid could go split it and we get it stacked. Didn't want to mess with the saw, but what I should have done was stopped, played with this for another 10 minutes and really got a feel for what the problem is. And it's a bad habit I have of jumping right into a leak down test. I've had simple little problems that had nothing to do with an air leak, but I've ripped the saw apart to do a leak down because it's the first thing I go to. And I guess that says something too, guys, that a leak down test is your most important test out of any tool. If you're going to work on chainsaws and repair chainsaws, buy a leak down tester. Buy that first. You don't need a compression tester. You don't need a spark plug tester. There's a bunch of things you don't need. This is the tool that you need first. I don't care if it's a Mighty Vac or another brand or a different one. This is the most important tool in chainsaw diagnostics. Yes, I run to it a little easier than I should. We're still at 9 pounds. Oh boy. So what that has me doing is, why was that leaking? Don't know. That's when it gets screwier. I wish it was something straightforward, so I'll, flex the handle and put a little stress on the big boot, and I'll start banging it, and I got to take it outside and blow it off with the air gun anyway, because I can't stand letting the soapy water dry on it. And if I didn't hit the bottom of that, we are at 8.75, so we haven't lost much, and I think it's just going down very, very slowly, but going down that slow, because it had to have been 2 minutes that I've been blabbing for, we passed leak down, especially at 9 pounds. Yeah, we're still better than 8.5. I don't know, guys. I wonder if you could hear this. Maybe here. I'll only put it up here because here's where my my microphone is now. Maybe you could hear that. I don't know. Anyhow, guys, I'm going to play with this some more tomorrow. This was just one thing I wanted to start ruling out problems. I guess I'm going to look at the carb. Maybe I'll swap the carb. Maybe I'll pull it apart and see if there was something in there and make another video if this even recorded. I might be talking to nothing. Anyhow, guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws, and BLUESAWS.com. Thanks for watching. Time for a lager.